From the streets of Paris to the blood-soaked trenches of the French countryside, the Great War unleashed chaos and carnage like never before. Amidst the devastation, a story of sex, scandal, and survival. This is the tale of the Scarlet Soldiers, women who turned to the oldest profession to endure amidst the horrors of World War I. All over France, the air is heavy with tension, and the low rumble of artillery is a constant reminder of the front lines just beyond the horizon. The nights are long and filled with both dread and desire. In towns caught between war and survival, women from all walks of life find themselves at desperate crossroads. With their fathers, brothers, and husbands off to fight, and with economic devastation ravaging their land, many turned to prostitution. They adorned themselves in bright red dresses that were symbols of their trade and their desire to survive. Fighting men came to know them as the Scarlet Soldiers. Our story starts with Marie, a young seamstress from a modest family. Her life took a turn when her fiancé, Pierre, was drafted into the French army and never came home. With her heart broken and her family struggling to make ends meet, Marie made the difficult choice so many did to work at a local brothel. There, amidst the flickering candlelight and the ever-present scent of smoke and sweat, she learned the art of seduction and survival. Marie's nights were filled with soldiers from all corners of the globe, each seeking a momentary escape from the horrors of war. English, German, and American men came to her bed, their bodies tense with fear and longing, their hands searching for a warmth in a world turned cold. She learned their stories in their whispered breaths, felt their pain in the way that they held her close, and shared their dreams in the silence that followed. In this melting pot of nationalities where the languages of shared suffering, pleasure, and fleeting hope intertwined, Marie found herself navigating a delicate balance between despair and desire. For the soldiers, it wasn't just about the release. It was also about the reprieve from death that loomed over them day and night. And deep connections could form often between the women that worked there and the men who visited, as they recognized a fellow prisoner of circumstance. But the dangers of war are ever present, and so were the dangers of this hidden world of sex and pain. The Scarlet Soldiers faced constant threats from shelling, raids, disease, drugs, and abuse. Our French seamstress Marie met a British soldier named James. Like so many, the reality of their situation became clearer with each passing day. James would have to return to the front line, and Marie would have to keep working to provide for her family. The story of the Scarlet Soldiers extends far beyond civilian brothels. On the home front, prostitution took on a more organized and militarized form. As thousands of men geared up to go to war, brothels all across Europe were hit with a surge of clientele. This influx led to skyrocketing rates of venereal disease, with infections such as syphilis and gonorrhea spreading rapidly among the ranks. These diseases became a significant threat to the military effectiveness, with the potential for crippling fighting forces and wreaking havoc on the soldiers' bodies. Military authorities across Europe implemented a drastic and controversial solution: the establishment of state-regulated military brothels. These establishments, in France known as tolerated houses and in Germany as soldiers' brothels, were designed to provide a controlled outlet for the soldiers' sexual urges while minimizing the spread of venereal disease. By bringing sex work under military oversight, officials aimed to impose order on what they considered a necessary evil. The attempt to regulate and control prostitution within the ranks was far from effective. The numbers were staggering, and the French military alone estimates at nearly 400,000 soldiers treated for VD during the war. The German army didn't fare much better, with cases in the hundreds of thousands as well. Medical treatment for STIs included the use of mercury-based treatments, and later salvarsan, one of the earliest effective treatments of syphilis. In the United States, the government launched a campaign against venereal disease and promiscuity, using education and moralistic propaganda and punitive measures, including arrest and internment for sex workers. In Britain, the Defense of the Realm Act, or DORA, allowed authorities to detain sex workers and suspected carriers of venereal disease. In France and other countries, women suspected of sex work or infected with an STI could face arrest, forced hospitalization, and quarantine. The reality for many of these women, these sex workers, these Scarlet soldiers was grim and often brutal. Some made the voluntary choice to prostitute themselves, yes, but many were coerced into prostitution by the very military authorities who claimed to protect them. The brothels were often populated by women who had little choice. Refugees, the poor, or those arrested for petty crimes were often forced into this line of work. The system exploited their bodies for the fleeting comfort of soldiers who fought and died mere miles away in the mud. The military's approach to managing sexuality and disease through these brothels was as morally dubious as it was pragmatic. For commanders and leaders, the overriding priority was the efficiency of the fighting force, not the well-being of the women servicing them. Military authorities justified these policies by pointing to the potential collapse of their country or perhaps the world. And when the fighting was done, Europe was left with a scarred landscape and a society in turmoil. Among the returning soldiers and the ruins of once thriving towns were these women whose stories were often left untold. During the tumultuous years of conflict, many had found themselves working in the brothels, driven by necessity, coercion, or just the harsh hand of fate. But as peace settled uneasily over war-ravaged nations, these women faced a brand new battle. The social stigma attached to their wartime roles was a vicious new enemy. Society, so quick to forget the desperation and the chaos of war, cast harsh judgments upon them. Economic hardship followed relentlessly. Jobs were scarce and opportunities for women with such a past were almost non-existent. They found themselves completely marginalized, struggling to rebuild their lives in a world that offered little compassion and even less understanding. The toll was not just economic. The physical and psychological wounds inflicted during these times were profound. Many women suffered from lasting health issues, a grim, ugly reminder of their time in the brothels. The psychological scars ran deeper still. The trauma of disease, the loss of dignity, and the burden of societal rejection left so many grappling with long-lasting mental anguish. The narrative of World War I often centers on the battlefield, the strategies, the soldiers, and the political aftermath. Yet woven into this tapestry of history is the lesser-known threads, stories like the Scarlet Soldiers. This aspect of war, though seldom discussed, offers a crucial, important glimpse into the harsh reality of human existence. Thanks for listening to Boots on the Hill. We appreciate you checking out the podcast. Hit the thumbs up button and ring the notification bell for new episodes.